Good morning. How are you doing?
I'm very well. How are you, Roman?
Hi, Alexis. So, people don't know you. I know you. Tell me about yourself a little bit.
Well, predominantly, I am a mom, first of all. I have four young kids that I homeschool. Um, Secondly, I'm a dog trainer, currently studying with the ISCP for the level five, the level
Yay.
five diploma in canine behavior. I have a mentor locally that I work under. So I assist her with all manner of cases and clients. She specializes in owner trained service dogs.
Mhm.
So we have quite a few service dog clients that we work with, as well as everything from reactivity to resource guarding. I volunteer at our local Humane Society in the dog enrichment program. I'm one of the what we call project dog volunteers. So if a dog comes in that's maybe a little more challenging behaviorally, I would be the volunteer to take that dog out and work with it and exercise it. And then I also have a foster dog currently who has some behavioral challenges. She resource guards and has a bite history. So um, when I'm not busy with my four children, I'm busy with dogs.
So, you have like a lot of dog hair on your plate.
Well, we haven't been much in the Humane Society lately. There hasn't been a lot of dogs in our area. We're one of those areas that is actually struggling to provide pets for people. We just recently brought in about 37 dogs from Texas.
Oh,
And then previously, before that, we brought in about 20 dogs from up north where the wildfires have been. Um, but they're being adopted so quickly that, and with COVID restrictions and things, volunteers haven't been in the shelter much lately. So I've been busy at home and working on my schoolwork and with my foster dogs. So,
awesome. The reason why I want people to um, meet you is because there is a little bit of a dissociation between dog trainers and people. People think dog trainers are kind of like special people, okay? Or
human.
people who are not dog trainers are weird people, right? Um, so I like the way that you manage children, manage dogs, and you do volunteering. I really don't know how you can do this all together. And studying, I'm way behind. Um, One thing that we had a conversation a couple of days ago, we were chatting. So one thing that we talked about is how we treat animals, and you felt very passionate about how we treat them in a shelter, treat them at home. And so I came up with a title. Hey, we're dehumanizing our dogs. On one side, we says we don't humanize your dogs, but on the other hand, we're dehumanizing our dogs and basically creating a huge gap in between what a relationship should look like in our home and what it actually look like. So what I perceive, and tell me your opinion, and many people want are sure to kind of hang in and say about stuff. What do we have here? Hi, Sophie from Canada. Um, I'm in Eugene, by the way. Where are you, Alexis?
I am in southern Ontario, so I'm also in Canada.
Oh, we have a Canadians here. Oh, okay.
Taking over.
Right. And one thing that I also have in my heart is that we treat animals in our house like prisoners,
Mhm.
and we see them, they're animals. At the same time, we have this confusion that, well, we say dogs are family, but on the other side, we treat them like prisoners. We're not even meeting the basic needs, most of those people who have dogs. And you see that over even extreme because you handle complex situation working with shelters and out through your behavior program, which is a high level degree. And on the other side, also you see the struggle that you have in your own house, having so many children, and you have so many different characters playing a role in there. And I feel you haven't told me yet, but I think you can see how this blends in. Each dog is an individual. Each child is an individual. Each dog has needs. Each child has needs. But why do we dehumanizing these things? They're one piece. They're family, and dogs are emotionally intelligent. They have emotions behind them. we now more scientifically are proving that they have emotions like a 5-year-old. I think we're beyond that already. What what do you see?
Well, it's I'm even in a unique situation to speak to this right now because we lost our dog in February. She was
Ouch.
13 and passed away. She was a herdie mix from the shelter. We'd had her a little over 10 years. And now I'm looking for our next family dog. When we got her, we had one child who was still in, an infant stage. So our dog grew up with our children and very much, was able to settle in as each child came along. Well, now I'm looking at having from 11 to 9 to 7 to 5-year-old. Now they're all very dog savvy, but I'm now looking at a very busy household where there's lots going on and there's, when COVID restrictions lessen, there's friends coming and going. We like to go on adventures and do things and take our dogs with us. And I'm facing the dilemma of, do I go and find a breeder who is breeding specifically for pet homes, regardless of breed, just looking at somebody who has that purpose in mind? Maybe it's a mixed breed, maybe it's a pure breed, or do I hedge my bets and go to the shelter? Now, I mentioned at the beginning that our local shelter is lacking dogs. And most of the dogs that are sitting have extensive behavioral problems. It's why they're still there. Or they're being put into foster homes to get the work that they need and the support that they need. But, as a mom and somebody who loves dogs, I do not want to put my children in a position where they begin to resent what I do. So if I continue, like our current foster took a lot of management in the beginning. My children had to really be on their toes and listen very carefully to my instructions and follow all of the protocols to avoid any bites. Now that's come a long way and the dog is able to coexist with them very well now, but it was a lot for them in the beginning. So I want them to have good experience now with the next dog we bring into our home permanently. I want them to grow up loving dogs. I don't want them to grow up thinking that all dogs have massive behavioral problems. But I'm finding that meeting my needs as a trainer and each of my child's individual needs, it's becoming tough to narrow it down to, do I go rescue? Do I go breeder? If I go breeder, what breed do I go for? And what am I looking for in a breeding program? So as a parent and a dog trainer, I feel like I almost have information overload. I know too much, but I've really struggled. I've reached out to lots of different breeders, trying to find the right fit. And so far, nothing's really fallen into place. So, I really feel for the parents out there, who are trying to navigate parenting and children and dogs at the same time.
I have the same dilemma. Since I can think back, I would have had rescues. I never had a dog from a breeder.
No, me neither.
I used to live with a breeder, so I have the experience of breeding. While there was a breeding part and a rescue part, which I think that's what most good breeders do. They support the breed either way.
Mm-hmm.
And I always came in a dilemma that I always had to keep the worst case scenarios with me because I wasn't sure that these dogs will make it out. I was confident about the dogs. I wasn't confident about the people with the dogs. And trust me, I know how to vet adopters. From reaching out to social media and checking things out, by cross-referencing, by Googling their emails, like literally, I try to get as much information. I want to know what's going to happen to that dog 5 years from now.
Yep.
And I caught a lot of people cheating on their information. I had some actually giving me the White House address as a reference. But and I was stupid not seeing it or something like that. And somebody, for example, gave me his location. I googled the location on Google Maps, and it was basically a junkyard. He pretending that he has a great house, showed me pictures of those house, but these pictures were not his house.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I always have, and I share with people that same idea. Says, you know what? There's a divine intervention. You just have to believe that the divine will help you get the right dog for your family,
Yep.
no matter what the dog is. I found good dogs in the shelter that were actually breeders' dogs. The breeder did not have a clue about it, but I was lucky for people who knew that dog because of the characteristics. It says that must be that breeder's dog. So I reached out, and indeed it was. So the person took the dog, disappeared, didn't remember which breeder it was. I cannot believe that, and then dumped the dog in the shelter because he growled at a child, and it was a mastiff. So, and a friend of mine was lucky to get that dog. I was like, he's an awesome dog. I don't know what these people did to that dog, but he never growled at me. He's fine with everyone. He's just a perfect dog.
I think we have we set too high of expectations for our family dogs. You know, I think that Hollywood movies, TV shows, you know, you can Google pictures, kids and dogs, and you get all of these results of kids hugging, kids sitting on, kids riding and leaning into, and you know, we talk about dogs that are good with kids, but we don't often hear about kids who are good with dogs. You know, my kids were taught from the minute they could crawl that the dog's bed was off limits, that the dog's food dish and water dish were off limits, the dog's toys, the dog's bones, they were not yours to play with, to touch. You know, any interaction with the dog was always supervised and directed by me to be gentle. And I talked from day one with them about how dogs are living, feeling beings with their own preferences, likes and dislikes. And if you disrespect the dog, you know, there could be serious outcomes. You know, it's a living creature. It's not a toy. And I think when we bring these dogs into our homes as little puppies that are so cute, and they put up with a lot of rambunctiousness from our children, and then they reach maturity and they start to have an opinion about it, and we as parents don't step in to guide, you know, then we say it's the failure of the dog. The dog is aggressive. The dog is mean. The dog is snapping at my children. And I think it's sometimes it's a lack of not knowing what they don't know. And there needs to be more education about dog bite prevention and body language. And I know there's, you know, organizations out there trying to do that. You know, there's dog trainers out there who specialize in kids and dogs. But I still feel like our animal welfare organizations, our shelters and rescues need to do better at educating adopters. Listen, this dog is going to come into your home and have opinions and feelings about things. And if you have kids, you need to teach your kids, and you need to teach the dog.
I totally agree with you. I see shelters and rescues are so under pressure.
Yes, and understaffed and under-volunteered. And
other thing that I see is that shelters and rescues have lack of support. Yes. And I think it's their choice.
You think so?
A rescue should have a behaviorist on board that's force-free and understand the breed they're working with. I'm not saying about the mixed breed rescues. I'm talking about the breed-specific rescues. I work with about 7 national rescues, and I see where people struggling with. I'm not working with any rescue. I'm working with rescues who are dedicated to the breed, who have a certain morals and ethics behind working with them. And hold on, I need to do something and see if that gets better. Okay, so I have to mute you because I have a feedback from my talking. And then the other thing that I see is that people get overwhelmed and they just want to get rid of the dogs. At some point, I've been in a conversation where actually the shelter says, a rescue that I don't work with, said in particular, I don't want you to do anything with your dog. I just want you to keep him there. And then my immediate conclusion is, because you don't want to pay for shelters for boarding your dog, you're going to put a foster in that situation for being a parking lot for free and not supporting the dog, because you're too busy to invest in this dog's evolution and investing in this dog's emotional health. His basic needs are not met if that dog has to be contained in a crate because you don't want to hire a trainer. Not me, anyone who knows what he's doing. And the problem is also that trainers was just everything ready. Why would I deal with a rescue? Rescues don't pay. So there is a confusion there. A rescue can pay for it because it's cheaper for the rescue to have a professional involved doing a proper evaluation and reduce the returns of those dogs. And at the same time, keep the dog bite free and educate those people who adopt that dog proactively rather than reactive. But we know some people are very smart about it. Oh, I have dogs all the time. Really? I mean, I know women all the time. My mother was a woman already. Doesn't make me a gynecologist. So we have to be very careful about how we set our mindset. And also as a rescue says, hey, I need a system that protects my dogs. I want you to pass a test. Do you know what to do with my dog? Do you meet my basic needs of my dog that you will adopt from me? I don't really care about the money that I will get, which I need because I have to pay the baby bills. Each dog needs at least $1,000 backup for each dog I have in my rescue. So if I have 100 dogs in rescue, I need $100,000. I know it sounds weird number, but at any time point, each dog can be sick and has to go to the vet immediately, which means I need to have a budget. Food, vaccinations, every dog has to be up to date. I'm not an anti-vaxxer and I'm not an over-vaxxer, but if a dog is not vaccinated, I have to vaccinate him. If a dog has any infections, I need to treat them. And this will go up fast. And I don't know if any rescues are here on board. Please speak up. It says, how much does a dog cost per you per day in your care? I know from shelters, each day, each dog for the first 13 days, and this is a research done, $75 per day in average in US, per day per dog in a shelter for the first 13 days, which means in 10 days, that dog is $750. And the month is not over yet. All the costs involved. And that is not getting into the foster. The foster does it for free. So there is a budget there. Okay? And Patty is also working with a rescue. Right? Way more than adoption fees.
Yes, and I find too that a lot of fosters will end up putting a lot of their own money into dogs.
Yeah.
Because we see, that these rescues are struggling. I mean, the rescue that I have our foster through, the only reason that I was able to take her in was that our dog had passed away and we had space in our home. And a friend reached out to me and said, my daughter has this dog who resource guards. They are expecting a baby. They've called around and nobody will take this dog. So I contacted my friend who runs a rescue, and he will take the older dogs, the sick dogs, the dogs that no one else wants because they're not an easy turnaround. So I reached out to him and said, look, if you'll take this dog into the rescue and cover, any medical that it has, I'll take it in and foster it and, cover its food and toys and things like that. So between the two of us, we're making sure all her needs are met. And I think that there's some smaller rescues out there that struggle to get the funding that some of the larger organizations can get. Like I know our local Humane Society does a lot of fundraisers and things and are able to, get more community support. And unfortunately, not all rescues will take in any old dog either. There's a couple of rescues locally that only really do kind of 40-pound and under dogs. They will go down to, rescues in the States, and they'll pick up the dogs that look most like they could be adopted out quickly.
Mm-hmm. So what I see here is you're saying basically many rescues see dogs as an object. How long
Yeah.
do I have the dog on the shelf? I don't want a dog to be long on the shelf. I want to get a dog that's quickly in, quickly out. I am suspicious here that, again, talking about a subject here, which is we're dehumanizing dogs, is we don't see the dogs for their value, for
Hmm.
their emotional and spiritual value. We see them as personal feedback, like personal experience. I feel good as a rescue because I rescue a lot of dogs.
Yeah.
Sometimes, and I know it's kind of bold to say, but I have some feeling some people have an emotional satisfaction rescuing dogs. That's it. They're not stepping up to the original reason what the rescue is for. Rescue is a system that helps the dog getting back into a life. But taking the dog from a place and putting in a misery is not rescue. Having the
Right.
dog parked in a shelter or parked in a crate is not rescue. It's prison. So we have to see the we have to be humane to animals like we would be to a child.
Yeah. I don't know how it is in your area or in anyone else's area who's here. Um, but there are only a handful of us trainers in the area that are force free or positive reinforcement based. Um, our area is heavily reliant on aversive tools and aversive trainers. It can be a real struggle. The rescue that I am working with for our foster dog, the guy who runs the rescue is a wonderful man. He loves the dogs. He wants to do what's best for them. He often will take in other dogs that other rescues won't because they're not as easily adopted out. They need a little more medical care or they're older. Um, but unfortunately, his education around behavior is lacking. There's a lot of people out there running rescues that do not have the behavioral knowledge. They don't have, they're still working on outdated theories that are not accurate, um, and the foster homes are not trained, um, and everybody's trying to do their best, but we do end up shortchanging the dogs a lot of the time because there just isn't the right education out there and the right support for the foster homes. And I don't know that people in my area recognize the value of a well-educated and experienced behavior specialist. Um, I know, for example, our shelter here is force-free in their program. Their behavior team is force-free. Um, there's no aversive training. The people who are on staff are educated and certified, but there's no stipulation in the adoption contracts about the type of training. So somebody can walk in and adopt a dog, take it out to their car and slap a prong collar on it and take it over to an aversive trainer. There's no follow up, and again, that's time and education and staffing and priority. What's the most important thing here? Is it turnover of dogs in homes, or are we looking at making sure that these dogs are going into homes that are meeting their needs and not creating more behavioral problems by using outdated theories and advice on training? I think it really should be both, but it's getting that information out there and convincing the powers that be, those who are in charge of the funds of the programming, to start allocating more of the resources towards the behavioral side of things and the education of adopters and foster homes.
I think you're pushing that sensitive button here, I see very often, or I hear very often, people justifying their tools in the name of the rescue. Amen. So I can use a prong collar because that dog needs help. He otherwise would be killed. I can use a shock collar. Well, you know what? You want the dog to be killed? Well, aversive methods, you know where the dog is coming from? He needs to get out of a kennel. And that excuses everything. So, in other words, I have a child in prison that's coming from a bad family situation. The reason why they end up in prison is because of these family situations. And now I'm going to use any tool available to me to get this child out of the prison, even if that causes trauma. And I'm like, what? Well,
Well, I
and
mean,
then all these excuses coming in. Well, shock collar doesn't cause trauma, and prong collar doesn't hurt even. And all these dissociated ideas of what it does and what it doesn't do, because it's convenient to read only that I feel make me feel good versus what is the reality of it.
yeah, and I think that's where the education part of it comes in. If you don't have an educated behavior specialist leading the way, who understands what reinforcement means, that food can be aversive, that what those actual what those words that we throw around in the canine training world, what they actually mean. To say the prong collar, well, it doesn't hurt. Okay, so does it stop your dog from pulling? Then your dog finds it aversive. And it has to be uncomfortable enough to have the dog to stop pulling. You're so without that foundation of understanding the process of learning and how behaviors are strengthened or how behaviors are extinguished, especially when you are working from a faulty theory from the start. The minute you step out and say, well, you need to be the alpha, you need to show your dog that you're in charge, you need to you're already going the wrong direction. So until you correct that position, until you understand truly what the canine familiaris is and what their ethology, their evolution, how they came to be what they are today, and what their relationship is with human beings, until you've corrected that position and you're starting from the right position and going in the right direction, I think you're just going to keep going in the wrong direction. You're going to continually make mistakes based on a faulty premise. And it's such a big hill to climb because it's just one of those myths that will not die no matter how much we try. Because a new TV show comes out and somebody else writes a book, and we have TikTok now that everybody.
Oh my God, get me started with that.
Sorry to open up that Pandora's box, but we have all these trainers out here that are on TikTok and they're telling their followers and they're showing them how they can have a dog walking on leash beside them, in 5 minutes. Yeah, but what the general public and what people without that behavioral knowledge are not understanding is that the reason they can get a dog walking beside them in 5 minutes is because they have punished that dog effectively enough. And that it isn't about the fact that it worked, it's how it worked.
If I take their side, if I look at this person has 1 million followers, he must be doing something right, no?
Right. If Cesar Millan has a international show and he's had multiple resurgences of the same type of show but under a different name, and he's trained all these rich and famous people's dogs, and he's got this huge facility, obviously he must know what he's talking about. It's a little bit of that white coat syndrome, I think, where we see the professional and we think they must know, right?
They make it sound good, though.
Oh, they certainly do.
I remember, and we're going back to this inhumane or dehumanizing, where a trainer basically went and smiling says, "Hey, your dog will like it," and put the prong collar on and yanked him at the door, tack a tap, and he's like, he's ready to go. And I was like, just because you smile about it doesn't make that okay. And I'm coming from a country that has Auschwitz in their country. And I've been there. And I felt how it feels like being there. And I saw pictures and I talked with people who have been there. My grandfather was in war. He have seen it from inside and outside. Making it sounds good doesn't make it good. And but it's not their fault. I think it's our fault. Us who know and others who know better than I do don't take the time to actually bring something so well smiled at that people buy that too. Right? Yeah, definitely. Definitely. And speaking of, Steve is by the way, with a great rescue in Michigan, if I'm right. Um, and I see also the term holistic coming in. I wasn't holistic, but I am holistic since 2007, basically, starting the idea of implementing it. Holistic is not just giving healthy treats. Holistic is not just looking at um, the dog healthy environment. It's looking at mind, body, spirit at the same time, seeing the purpose of a dog rather than his behavior of a dog, and seeing the function on the dog in that family, not just as a companion dog, but as a healer, teacher, or companion dog. And what is in for the family? What is the spiritual reason for the dog being in the family? It's because, weird wise, that dog and this person who are attracted to each other have similar core traumas. So that dog is not only there for their convenience, it's because that dog has a lesson and a healing in itself. So how do you approach that if a dog behaves a certain way? Positive reinforcement, positive punishment, force free, not force free. If that dog is here to send a lesson and the person doesn't get the lesson, no matter what you're trying to do, the dog will still do it because his job is not done. And so we have to see that from a holistic perspective and help the dog, help them in a healthier way that is not conflicting with the family system. And at the same time, help the people see the dog's needs, not only from a human perspective, but seeing from a dog's perspective what he needs to be compliant. So simple things like, you know, nothing in life is for free. Whoa, wait, what? You go to animal behavior college, you go to American veterinary behaviorist, they suggest that. But we're not like all this explanation to that. So now you don't know, you just read a couple of sentences. Oh, cool. You don't get my love until you do what I'm telling you to do. And that dog just needs to go to the bathroom and he scratches the door because you didn't do that before he had that need. And so we take these out of context situations, give them a title, sounds fancy. Well, why would the dog get something for free? Because he's a puppy. He doesn't know better. You cannot expect the dog to know better because you don't know how to treat a dog. And that escalates. I know, Patty, right? People don't see that. And I remember I was in a case where a child, I'm sorry for this backup, I'll give you a little bit of mute, Alexis, where um, a dog was punished by the parents for peeing in the child's bed. And it was actually in Greenwich. Actually, it was one of Cesar Milan's clients. Oops. Um, and there was an issue behind that. And I didn't know. And I was focusing on addressing the behavior. But something in myself poked me, and I says, no, don't judge what you see. Try to understand why. And so, long story short, it wasn't the dog who peed on the bed. It was the child that peed in the bed. And the dog was trying to cover it by placing himself on top of the bed so nobody can see it. What kind of mind do you need for that? And I explained to you what happened with the child. The child witnesses family aggression between the parents, and the child basically got crazy about it and was afraid to go to the bathroom. So he went back to bed so the parents don't see him that he's up. And he couldn't hold it anymore, so he peed on it. And he felt sorry about it, and he was very frustrated, and the dog came up to help him out. So if we go that with clear dog training stuff, then what exactly are we doing? We're not treating the dog. We try to comply with the person's needs to get that problem addressed. Which means I have to just make people happy and dog training is good. No. If I don't address the dog's issue, I haven't done zero work. Right, Steve? It's easy to blame the dog. But Wick also says, blame the people. No, don't blame anyone. Help everyone. Just like you do. You have your kids. You don't blame the kids. You would automatically blame yourself. You don't blame the dog. Automatically you blame yourself. You just to help everyone and make appropriate decisions, even if they're not very common. I'm not taking a dog from rescue. I'm not taking a dog from a breeder because I don't know what I will get. Until then, I have to wait. I have to be patient. I have to figure things out. I don't expect my family to comply with my rescue needs, and I don't expect the dog to comply to my family situations. And that's why we're talking about dehumanizing is taking the human aspect out of the equation if we're talking about dog and behavior, because it's not convenient.
Yeah. I think we, especially in North America, we bring dogs into our homes and we just want them to
meet money. Sorry, to steal your show.
we want them. Somebody said, it's easier to blame the dog, and I don't know who it was who said that the amount of people who just think a puppy should know better, the whole, well, he should know better than to chew my shoes, or he should know better.
Oh, he's asserting dominance over your shoe. Yeah, he's 4 months old, of course.
Yeah. I can't remember where I read it, whether it was an article or I watched a video or read it in a book, but it was talking about, I think it was like a blog post maybe of somebody's, and I wish I could remember who. And if anybody knows, please go ahead and feel free to say who the author was. But it was talking about when you're speaking with clients, dogs are almost like aliens. Think about bringing a puppy home as like bringing home an alien. They've left their planet. They don't know the language. They don't know our home. If you've ever emigrated from one country to another, where the language is different and the culture is different, you get some idea of what it can feel like. It's very disorienting. It's almost a little frightening when you can't communicate with anybody. You feel like if I'm in an emergency and I don't know what to do, I can't even express to somebody clearly my needs. So setting those expectations for homes to understand that it's their job to understand the dog's needs, and there's going to be a whole host of influences into the dog's needs: genetics, learning history, breeding. All of those things are going to play a part in what this dog's needs are going to be. So taking some time to understand those needs and then doing your best to meet them proactively rather than waiting for them to become a problem. That attitude of, well, they should know better. Well, no, they don't. And it's your job to teach them. And it's your responsibility to do so in a humane way. And just locking the dog up in a crate or abandoning them at a shelter is not meeting their needs in a humane way. And I mean, I'm not a proponent of keeping a dog stubbornly if you're unable to meet its needs. You know, but I think that there needs to be some effort, and there needs to be some understanding, and there needs to be the attitude that these dogs are part of our family. And that means that they should have access to love and affection and safety and food and learning and medical and all of those things, just like we would for anyone else that is a part of our family, but still keeping in mind that they are not human beings, they are canines. So let's look at their needs uniquely and then make sure we meet them. And I see you have the hierarchy of dog needs up there from Linda. And
Yep.
you know,
Please, somebody tag Linda Michaels if
yes,
possible.
such a great foundation. You know, if somebody can take that and look at that and say, okay, step by step here, am I meeting my dog's needs? That could make an absolute world of difference.
Yep, I agree. I'm totally with you on that. So I put the link in the comments so people can actually, if I can get there. Oh, it's posting. So people can kind of check it out, because many people actually don't know that. Did I mute you by accident? I don't know what happened. What did I do? I screwed up.
No, I don't think so. I see somebody posted in the chat there that it was Gene Donaldson who did the alien comparison.
So I put here the link for you guys to check out the hierarchy of needs. And please, Linda has a great book about that. And you guys want to, it's inexpensive. It's worth the download. You download all this shit all the time. Just download something right. And get the book.
Yes, and if you're not...
We advertise for colleagues, not a big deal, okay?
Yes, absolutely. That's the other thing. There's no competition here. You know, I'm busy enough. Roman's busy enough. We're not, you know, we can reach out and refer and highlight and encourage. We all have our strengths as trainers. We all have our you know, the things we really like to work with. Some people prefer separation anxiety. Some people like to work with specific breeds, you know, specific issues. There's no reason why we can't cheer each other on, encourage one another. You know, the force-free community really needs to stand together and share our resources. Mentioning the handbook of the Do No Harm handbook that you were saying there, if you're not a member of the Facebook group, when you join, you get a discount as well. So I mean, it's even cheaper. So you have absolutely no excuse to download it.
It actually saves you money. It's weird as it sounds. Spending a little bit of money saves you a lot of money, because if you're not getting your dog to do things because you are proactive, then he will not need those monies that you otherwise, like separation anxiety, and then you have to fix the door and have to have a plumber coming in and the sheeter guy and the painter. Oh man, you have to put things in the storage. You know how much money that costs? Be smart about it.
Yeah, when it comes to dogs, prevention is worth everything. You know, don't hire me or Roman. Just buy the manual and follow it, for crying out loud.
If you still need us, still call us, right? You know where to find us. Actually, Alexis, do you have a website?
I do not. I can. You know what? Here's the thing. You know, I started studying with the ISCP and I was volunteering, and I didn't really have a plan of starting my own business. You know, eventually I think I will as my children get a little bit older. But right now I am working under, her name is Sam Roberts, and she has Wagging Tails Working Paws. So it's www.waggingtailsworkingpaws.com. You know, and she has her webpage. I'm not on it yet, but she has asked me to come on when I'm done my schooling as a trainer through her business. So eventually I will be a Wagging Tails Working Paws trainer. I'm just focusing more on my schooling right now so I can get that diploma going.
Yep, I got you. So
Yep.
here it is.
But I mean, anyone who wants to, follow me on social media, I'm on Instagram at the number six, and then Fluits, capital Fluits. I post a lot. Mostly, I post about dog training. Sometimes I post a little bit about parenting. I'm neurodiverse. Several of my children are neurodiverse. My husband is as well. So I sometimes post about parenting and parenting children who have unique brains. So I deal with dogs with unique wiring, and I deal with humans with unique wiring.
And colleagues with weird wiring.
Oh,
Yes, yeah. We all have to be a little strange, I think, to do what we do. I don't think we all have to be unique to take on the challenges that we do. And then I'm on Facebook under Alexis Fluit. I don't have anything specifically just for dog training, but I do share a lot of dog training related and behavior stuff on my social media.
And we have a group, the Holistic Dog Training and Foster and Parenting Education page, group page. I'm going to put the link later on.
Oh, sorry, you've gotten really, really quiet. So let me mute myself here.
Am I quiet? Better now? No, don't. Uh-oh. What happened? It's me. 1, 2. Okay. It got quiet. Do you guys still hear me? Give me a thumbs up. Uh-oh. We share something good, right?
Now I can't hear you at all.
Now better? Okay. What happened? System processing. I don't know what to do. Okay. Is it better now? Okay, good then. It's just me, I guess. So unmute yourself, Alexis. Please. Here you
It's
go.
still very quiet for me.
Okay.
I don't know why.
Up your speaker loudness, maybe. And something changed while we were talking because now I don't even hear my echo back. So something changed. Maybe it was the platform. So one thing that I notice from my experience, and I feel very comfortable working in a trauma space, helping people and dogs with trauma because I've been in a trauma space. I would consider myself being a trauma survivor, complex trauma survivor, and I see how many times um, dogs and people coming from the same area of trauma, um, neglect, physical abuse, um, lack of consent, all these things that come up for healing. It's just so helpful to me working with dogs and working with people. Um, Being able to tap into that as an empath and getting that information out at the same time on both directions is sometimes overwhelming and burnout, but it is very helpful. So one thing that really helped me was I did one of my wife's classes, which helps people who are empaths to get those skills upgraded and the intuitive skills. That helped me a lot. And that's why I'm saying holistic is not just a term to express how different you are from others, but you have to do the whole thing. You cannot just do it a little bit. Holistic means the whole, understanding the whole, the dog's environment, the dog breeds, where the dog lives, the people, culture needs. I work with people across the globe. I have people work with India. They have a different culture. You have to do a completely different approach. You cannot just tell them, well, leave your dog on the bed. No, that doesn't work like that. You go in Japan, you cannot have certain expectations of dogs. You go to Hong Kong, you cannot have certain expectations of those people. You go to Greece, you tell them, don't take your dog outside. And it's like, are you nuts? Right? So all these things have to be very carefully considered if you want to help that dog. You have to get it from their perspective, from the culture these people live, and what the dog is coming from. A dog who comes from Syria and ends up in New York downtown, how would you take that as a regular dog who has to be punished for expressing his worries about a passing car? Who has severe PTSD not only from the war zone but also from a transportation, and plus he's being alienated because he has no clue who you are. You look just everywhere different, and he's not even in the same planet anymore. And we don't see that. We just don't want to see that. I don't know exactly how the minds work, and I work with a couple of rescues who bring dogs in from different countries. Even if I don't agree with the concept, my personal, but it's my personal opinion, because I don't see why we're not helping our own dogs, and then we're reaching out over there and bringing those dogs who some of them are just fine in freedom. We just want them to be confined because they're going to starve. That's our idea of what's going to happen there. So our fear is being projected onto the dogs. And then we bring them up here and we imprison them in prison camps for a while. And then at the end, they're going to make a mistake and they're going to end up dead anyway. And we spend thousands of millions of dollars bringing those dogs here instead of helping millions of dogs here. But again, that's my personal opinion. I don't want to project anyone up. That's my personal experience. And I've been in those countries and I cared and loved those dogs there. But it wasn't healthy for them to bring them over here. I brought my dogs from Greece and I suffered with it for 6 months. They suffered more than I did to get them back to normal after they were being stressed through the plane and through the airport.
No,
And
I'm friends with and follow a lot of people out of the UK. And, one of the trends over there is to bring in the Romanian street dogs. And these dogs are struggling so hard. These dogs are used to having autonomy and choice. And suddenly now they're on our schedule. They're being restrained with harnesses and leashes. And a dog who is stable and happy because they can choose to move towards or away from something that bothers them is now feeling trapped. And, I'm seeing a lot of these dogs that are doing a lot of lunging and biting of the leash and jumping on their owners and mouthing and nipping at the owners out on walks. And bless the owners, they are trying to manage these behaviors. They want to enjoy their dogs, as we should. They want to be able to provide exercise and enrichment for these dogs. But how do we get there when these dogs are used to having that freedom of choice and autonomy to do what they want when they want, and suddenly we're putting them into these situations where they're restrained? And now it's on a harness, and it's there's no
it's the
aversive
best for them.
equipment.
It's the best for them because I feel
Right.
good about it.
Right. So these people are doing their best to be force free. They're doing their best to try to meet these dogs' needs, and they're still hitting roadblocks based on the genetics, the evolution, the previous learning of these dogs. So I definitely struggle with the idea of taking street dogs and trying to plop them into suburban and urban homes.
I think we should do a whole talk about that. I work also with streeties, not in person,
Yes.
but with people who work locally in different countries. And we should kind of open that conversation because I mean people have a weird understanding what a street dog is, what a feral dog is, what a free roaming dog is, what a pet is, and what a house dog is. We just put them in one conclusion. A street dog is the one who suffers, who's like gonna die if I don't help him. No, he's just fine there. Okay, he's being taken care of. It's a town dog. He's being owned by multiple people. They care for dogs. They offer food. The dog, if he needs something, he will come over. There is a good old time for the last 4 million generations where dogs were part of those families and those families were part of the dogs. They were communing in a community of synergistic working. there. Okay.
Yeah,
The cost benefits.
I would argue that the street dogs are happier where they are than if we were to, even if their lives may be shorter, maybe if they may struggle a little bit more
They're
to
fulfilled.
find food and shelter, than the average pet dog that gets its meal in a bowl twice a day and gets it 20-minute walk around the neighborhood in the morning and the evening and sleeps on a big cushy bed. I would argue that those dogs, because they have freedom and choice and autonomy over their choices, over who they want to be, where they want to be, when they want to be there, I would argue they are much happier than the vast majority of pet dogs in North America and other developed countries.
Yeah. Well, my attempt, and that's why I create holistic dog training, is to bring the house dog his freedom back as much as we can, because in our North American society, it's in Europe, it's a little bit different, but in North American society, we have this picture of a family with a dog. And I know it's bold, but it seems like we are kind of like in an illusion that because of that, the dog has to feel good because I feel good having a dog. All he has to do is giving him some food, giving him quarter acre backyard, and life is good. No, it's not as simple as that. There's more complex than that. There are so many factors that are untouched on that aspect that we just go quickly over it because it's just a dog, right? If the insurance tells me, oh, it's a pit bull, oh, then we go up there and fight for it. But until then, we don't do nothing about it. We don't care actually until the poop hits the fan, and then we struggle with it. So Anya, for example, she's from Germany, if I remember right. Yeah. Um, you go to Greece. I have a lot of Greek friends. I'm Greek. We have a different understanding of a dog in a house. Actually, the dogs have a job. However, there are other extremes. For example, the dog is just a tool, okay, for hunting. And if it doesn't hunt well, then we dump him in the woods. That's another story. Olympic Games, where I got burned out, was where actually 20,000 dogs got killed over the weekend, basically. And I was just done with it. I was like, I just cannot handle it. I don't want to deal with it anymore. I'd shut down for a couple of years. It took me like almost 4 years to recover from it and then go back to working with rescues. I felt so emotionally violated. They took away my purpose, basically, and I got very angry about it. But here, does nothing changed either, because what we do in the name of population, we snip everyone and accuse everyone who doesn't snip. But we're not addressing the real issue, that people who don't see dogs for their capacity still continue what they're doing because they don't care about our laws. The people who care are being punished for caring, and these guys who make money for doing what they do, they're being untouched. In fact, I believe they are part of a bigger system. Imagine we have only healthy dogs. Who's going to pay the other bills? Imagine we feed healthy. Who's going to pay those bills? So, US, unfortunately, North America, is not about having a healthy relationship and healthy dogs. It's about having a healthy consumer industry relationship. That's what's focused it. And that comes with a high cost because we buy into it.
Oh yeah, as I mentioned in the beginning, the whole idea of a dog being like an accessory, with the little purses that you put your dog in and the little outfits, and taking your dog to the expensive salon, and they have the little bows on their heads and they get their little nails painted, and and I'm not against groomers. One of my good friends is a groomer, and grooming can be a health issue. If a dog is not well groomed, it can lead to conditions and pain and discomfort and all a plethora of things. So, meeting a dog's needs can include seeing a professional groomer on a regular basis. But the idea that these dogs are accessories, they are a add-on, that they speak a status to other people. You know, oh, I have a insert unique colored breed of dog, you know, and I paid $6,000 for it from a whatever breeder, and it's a status symbol. You know, when we dress them up and take them places and do things with them with little to no regard to whether the dog wants to do those things, would choose to do those things. Is the dog healthy? Is it functional? Can it breathe? Can it walk? Does it have congenital issues directly connected to its coat color? You know, especially in the media, we see dogs constantly that are bred for that status. And I think there's a bit of a vicious cycle between what shows up and wins ribbons in the show rings and what is demanded by the public. You know, we all want the best, right? We want the best we can afford. We want to have that status symbol. We want to say my dog is from champion lines, and you know, and unfortunately there's a lot of unscrupulous breeders out there that will prey on that mindset and will breed without thought to the genetics and the health and the temperament of these dogs. You know, just as much as there's unscrupulous people who breed, you know, whatever dog they have with whatever dog in the neighborhood. I think there is a drastic lack of ethical breeders out there, and I'm not saying they have to be purebred. I'm not saying they have to be, you know, closed stud book purebred dogs. I'm saying people who are breeding dogs with health and temperament as their number one priority. And we're lacking, and I was taught, you said earlier about all of these dogs being desexed. You know, and there's this push for this.
For a specific method. I'm not saying the sexing is a problem. I'm saying
no, and I think
nurturing.
Yeah, and I think, you know, there's been this drive for only these show line dogs to breed. And we're ending up with this extreme of either you only have these closed stud book lines of dogs that have their own health concerns, and it pains me to say that there's few of those breeders that are breeding with temperament as their top priority. You know, there's lots of show dogs that can dance around a ring, but they don't do well in a home. And then on the far other end of things, we have sort of the backyard breeders, the puppy mills, operating and just pouring out these dogs that, you know, that have no pedigree, that have
You just told me you don't have enough dogs in your shelter. Let me get it for you. I'm just saying, just being ironic here. I know breeders who actually are part of a rescue system who distribute their breeding dogs through a rescue, calling them rescues, and then being transported to Canada, to US, to different states.
I know that a few of like up here in Canada, especially in certain cities, there's been talk of that. There's been talk about reaching out to breeders and saying, listen, we need good, solid family dogs. We don't want to get them from backyard breeders. We don't want to get them from puppy mills. We would rather go to somebody who is breeding with purpose, with temperament and health and stability, and with the idea that these dogs are going to end up in an urban environment or a suburban environment with children, with visitors, with, busy lifestyles. How can we provide pet dogs to these homes? Because there is a shortage, and like I said, we are bringing dogs in from down in the States, from shelters that are running out of room. We're bringing them from up north where there's wildfires and things, but we still don't have enough dogs for people. And there's that ethical question of, do we knowingly saddle families with dogs with behavioral problems? These people are coming and they're looking for a family dog, and we say, oh, rescue, shelter, shop, adopt, don't. Yeah, but then the offerings for them are like, okay, well, you need to rescue, but the dog might not be able to function in your home, and you're going to have to put out a lot of finances and training and time and energy, and this dog is going to become a burden rather than you being able to enjoy each other's company. And it's easy for me to say as a trainer, we'll just put the effort in, put the work in, meet the dog's needs, and it'll be okay. It'll come around, and you'll be able to manage it, and things will get better. But I'm also a mom of 4 kids, and if I wasn't a trainer, and I had, say, the foster I currently have, where when we first brought her in, she guarded me from my 4 children, and she would snarl at them as they walked into the room and lunge and bark at them. I think, what would I do if I were myself, but not having my training background? And I can't imagine saddling that type of behavior on a mom of 4 young kids. I think there's definitely an ethical question of providing the right dogs to the right homes. And it's not an easy answer. There's so many variables. There's so many layers of things going on, and we can sometimes feel like we're spinning in circles, saying, well, this needs to be fixed, but then we have to address this, and this needs to be dealt with, but we have to address that. And I don't think the answer is black and white. I don't think it's straightforward. I think there is
a self-sustaining system where
yeah.
people who take dogs know what to do. School who teaches children how to have the basic animal care is being removed. And then we have rescues who know what to do. And then we have shelters that know what to do. And then we have animal control officers who know what to do. And we have community and county shelters know what to do. And then we have institutions that know how to support those people who know what to do. And then automatically all these bad guys are being eliminated because nobody supports them. Nobody gets dogs from them. No one wants to give them dogs to adopt. Because
yes,
again,
one of the projects that I have that's in the back of my mind, sort of on the back burner as I'm working through my diploma, is that I would like to get certified as a dog bite prevention educator. And I would like to see a program in all of the schools in my area. And who knows? I mean, I'm casting a vision a bit here. I'm speaking maybe a bit prophetically. Maybe a day will come when that's all I do, is that I go into schools and I teach kids about dog body language and behavior, and I educate them, because they're the next dog guardians, right? They're going to grow up, and children can go home and teach their parents. I can tell you there's nothing quite as humbling when your kid calls you out on poor behavior.
There was actually a study done in Austria about that many years ago, it's still here, where it was about bringing plastic PET Tetra Pak milk into the homes. So the Tetra Pak industry did a research, and what they did was amazing. They says, we cannot convince people who buy glass bottles to switch to Tetra Pak, But we go to schools and bring those kids those Tetra Pak packages to drink milk from. They're going to bring those back at home. And what we're going to do, so we can convince how eco-friendly we are, which we're not, we're going to have those kids collect the packages and put them in a recycling bin and bring them back to us. That was the end of glass bottles in Austria. And I was sucking on this carton milk and brought home. We need to get that milk from a store. And my grandmother was like, we don't need that. We're fine with the glass bottle, right? And I was like, you can get the cream on top of it. And I was like, no, 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 paper it is. Not knowing what paper is underneath. But one child can affect a father, a mother, and two grandparents. That's a lot of people teaching only one child what to do. But one
Yes.
parent will not be able to do that. But one child can do that. Because who says no to a child? Come on. Mom, we should feed the dog healthier food. No, child, we just keep him. You don't say that. You just go and buy healthy food because your kid told you so. What else would your kid think of you if you're not complying to that, right? It's a good point.
Yeah, so I definitely see that as being something that I want to get rolling in my area. It's sorely lacking. Um, you know, I feel like our local humane society could do better at reaching out to the community about dog bite prevention, about dog behavior, about dog body language. But as a mom who homeschools her 4 children, I really I have firsthand experience that they are, they're the ones we need to reach. I think, we've all had an experience of trying to convince, uncle, whatever, that just because he's had dogs since he was a kid, and this is how my grandpa trained them, and this is how my uncle trained them, and this is how I train them, they're so entrenched in their beliefs that no matter how much I try to tell them, well, like, listen, there's been new research, and I waste my energy there. And I feel like if I can pour my passion and my energy into something that I know, which is kids and dogs, and I say that rather cheekily, I'm no expert on either, but I have experience with kids and dogs, and I feel like that's a corner of the market, to use a very crude term when it comes to human beings and the dogs that we love, but a corner of the market that is neglected, I feel. Um, you know, there should be a program out there in every school system, just like the drug program that many of us may have gone through in school, where we were taught about drugs and how to say no, and you know, um, that was mandatory growing up. I remember taking 2 different programs through school, and I feel like offering a program like that to schools could create a whole new generation of kids who understand what it means to be a humane dog guardian, and who can recognize that a wagging tail doesn't always mean happy.
And you don't
You
have
know,
to pet every dog you like.
that too. Yes, thank you. Um, it's funny. I have been out with my children walking, and somebody has been walking their dog, and my kids know they have three questions to ask. Mom, can I pet the dog? Owner, can I pet the dog? And dog, can I pet you? And I've actually had situations where the dog has clearly shown that they do not want to interact with my children. And I have said to my kids, guys, can you see the dog doesn't want to interact with you? So you can just look at it from here and admire the pretty puppy. And I've had the owner shove their dog towards my children and say, oh, no, she likes kids. Yes, pet the dog. Here, I'll bring her to. And I said, I've had to
Because
step
I
in
feel
and say,
embarrassed if not.
no, your dog does not want to interact with my children, and that is okay. My kids can be disappointed. They are okay with that. They understand that not all dogs want attention from 4 young children. But it's funny how the owners have this, the handlers have this idea that
dissociated. They don't see it. They don't want to see
yeah,
it. It's not
they miss
convenient.
the
It's
body language.
embarrassing.
They say, oh, and then they feel almost obliged to make their dog interact because they don't want to disappoint the children.
No, they don't want to be embarrassed. It's an ego thing.
Yes,
It's not
yes.
about the
My
dog,
dog
it's
is
about
good.
them.
My dog is friendly. My dog
Right.
likes
And your dog is
children.
like,
And then the dog is sitting there with its ears pinned back and whale eye, and it's
I've seen
panting.
a
And
neighbor of mine dragging his dog by a chalk collar to beat his friend in between two cars. And I had to be a bad neighbor and tell him, hey, dude, what you're doing right now is you're going to teaching the dog how to bite people. And he's like really aggressive. Are you telling me what to do? Oh, the kind of sort of I do. Guess what happened 3 days after that? He was without a dog because he surrendered to the shelter because his dog bit someone. But we can only do so much. But I think going to the previous beginning, we should humanize dogs in a healthy way. We should be the humans who are humane treating dogs, which we have to admit they are mammals just like we are. They just don't have the size of the brain. It doesn't really help us at all, our brain, seeing around our environment. The dogs are doing just fine with the little brains. We don't. They don't have wars. We do. They don't kill each other. We do. Okay? We're not taking over countries. They don't. We do. So we have something to learn from them. We have to learn how we should be more humane, not our to ourselves, but also to our environment, and to see the animals for who they are, not what we want them to be. Because I can buy stuffed toys for $12. I don't need to spend thousands of dollars on vet bills to getting a toy that behaves like a stuffed toy. Don't do this, don't do that, don't be happy, don't pee, don't bark, don't do this. Well, you want a dog? You take a turtle, what do you expect it to do? Be soft? You take a kangaroo, expecting not to jump? Is that what we want to do? But we excuse all these things. Look at we excuse all these things and we justify them for our dogs, and we are totally okay with it, understanding that a lion in a kennel get steer crazy, but my dog can be in a kennel because it shouldn't matter. Separation anxiety, I don't understand what that means. The dog is just being a jerk, that's all. So I so appreciate you. Thank you so much. Very good points. And we definitely have to go back to those streety dogs. And I have a couple of good friends and colleagues. We can bring them who are specializing in street dogs from India and one from Bali and maybe one from Egypt. So we kind of have a multicultural feedback and understanding
yes, are you
what those
talking
dogs are.
about Sindur?
Yep. And
Yes.
also about Marco Ada and another person in Egypt that I don't recall her name. I'm so sorry if you're listening to this. So embarrassing.
One of my colleagues, one of the moderators from Do No Harm, she's from Hound Charming, Emma McLean. She works a lot with the
In
Baladi.
France.
She's in England, Emma.
Oh, okay.
But she works a lot with the Baladi dogs from Egypt. She has a lot
We
of
have
Baladi
enough room
clients.
here on our chart to have everybody, giving their experience on that stuff. Because me personally, we should learn more about those free roaming dogs instead of going to the zoos and observing wolves and try to make conclusions out of it, right? Which is ridiculous. It's kind of like, hey, I'm gonna go study apes so I know how you live in New York. What? Just because the wolves have less in common in dogs than dogs have with humans. I mean, you have to picture that a little bit. We have an
Yes, a lot
emotional,
of people misunderstand. They think that dogs descended directly from wolves, but what they don't understand is that today's wolves and today's dogs have a common ancestor, but
likely,
they evolved into very separate,
lines.
very, very unique and separate. Lots of similarities because they have a common ancestor, but as many similarities as they also have their own ethograms that we need to study.
I think we should learn from dogs how we can be more humans, so we can treat them like humans. I think that's a general message here today. I don't know if you agree
Yes,
with
well,
that.
I mean, we've learned, there's been studies in the last few years that have shown that humans and dogs co-evolved, that our relationship is incredibly unique, more unique than any relationship that humans have with other animals. That dogs have developed unique abilities to recognize facial expressions, to recognize gesturing. Um, there's so much going on in our relationship with dogs, and it does us such a huge disservice when we focus on the wolves, like you were saying, because we don't have that relationship with wolves. Wolves did not evolve to work with humans. um, and the more we study dogs and dog behavior, the better human we can be for our dogs.
Yep. And we learn more about ourselves. So in my online, when I'm working with people online, the first thing I tell them, you need to understand your dog knows more about you than yourself. And it's not a lie. Does he know your shoe number? No, it doesn't really matter. He knows your potential. And that's what's important. We don't know our potential. We don't even love ourselves. The dog does. And
We have
so,
studies to show that dogs know when we're liars.
yep,
Dogs know when we're not trustworthy.
charge of characters. Not really. We don't, because the dog is growling at the person doesn't mean the person is bad. But if we see it from a holistic perspective, that person may have an energetic attachment. That person maybe is dissociated. Maybe this person is out of alignment. It's like out of his body kind of situations. I feel like I'm not feeling well today. But at the same time, the dog sees you as my partner change your behavior because of that person. It's maybe the person's trauma seeing a person to resemble somebody that I'm causing myself trauma or fear, a fear response. So these people don't see that. We need to kind of get a good wake up call to see the whole potential. And me personally, I don't believe we would have that humane society, sorry, our human society if we wouldn't have dogs. We would totally be lost without their contribution. So we owe them where we are right now, even we like it or not. Because I don't think we'll be able to hunt on our own without them. We'll not be able to protect ourselves without them. I'm not being able to keep us warm without them. And they'll learn from us too. But it's a synergistic situation that we just don't want to look at. Now we're so convenient that if I'm not feeling good about it, my dog shouldn't feel either. And that's the sad part of it. But we're getting out of there. So thank you so much. We overkilled it today, but everything was so interesting from start to begin with, up to the end. And thank you so much, everyone from Greece, Anya from Canada, all these people here. I know everybody's working this morning, and still we had a couple of people here being on here and joining, and super good inputs. So yeah,
Yes,
we should
thank you.
definitely set
Thank you for
something up.
having me, and thank you for everyone who joined us and had such interesting things to add. And yeah, I would definitely like to talk more about the street dogs. I think that's a very important conversation.
Good. So again, thanks everyone for joining, and see you next Saturday.
Take care, everybody.
Oops, that was the wrong one. So I'm gonna close our session today. Bye bye, everyone.